Mhm. Here we go. We are live. Let me make sure. Okay. I'm super excited about all of this new technology that I'm kind of putting into play. And I think we are live. I'm going to give you guys a little bit more time to jump on so we can talk about what we came here to talk about today. There we go. Hello, everybody. I think it's about lunchtime, so either y'all are sitting at the desk right now, um, about to eat, or you've already eaten. Either way it go, I'm glad that you all are tuning in. Now y'all know I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start on time. I'm gonna start on time. Let me. Okay, we got a few seconds left. I'm gonna give some time for somebody to jump on in the room. We got a couple people on now, but I'm gonna tell you what you're jumping on for. As soon as 12 o'clock hit, I'm so happy I'm on time because that's one of the things that I've been working on is being on time and being prompt with literally everything. Now, because I will say this, because I am working with multiple different platforms, because right now I am streaming live on Instagram, on Facebook, and on YouTube. My eyes are kind of jumping all over the place, and just because I'm looking at multiple screens. But it's 12 o'clock now, so we're going to get started. So, good afternoon, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining me. Those that are here with me live and those that will be watching the replay. I want to introduce to you all Jess X Jess. A lot of people have a lot of questions about all things real estate, business related, just different things. And in doing that, I just wanted to take maybe a few minutes out of the day once a week to come here and give you all answers to some of the questions that you all are looking for. Um, I like to say that I'm really good at explaining things, and as much as I would like to say that for myself, it's actually feedback that I've got from other people. So I am here to answer the questions that you all have. Now, the way this is going to work today, of course, is the very first one. This is episode one, and it will be kind of like I'm not gonna say podcast, but I guess um, internet series. I want to say. I guess that's what it's going to be. But yeah, so every week is going to be a different topic. It's not going to be the same thing, which is why, um, like it will be replaying over and over again. But the material is all different. So it's 12:01. We're going to go ahead and jump into the material of what we're talking about today. So today, episode one is about unlocking homeownership. What I find as I talk to many people, it doesn't matter who they are, first time home buyers, second time buyers, whoever I'm talking to, the steps seem to get a little big in people's minds. And it can be big if you don't know what you're doing, or it's been a while and it's because it's just you don't know. But once you actually know the material, you know the steps, you're prepared, it's not as hard as it actually seems. So my goal here today is to really just let you know what the steps are in getting started. Nothing really in detail, which we will go into these steps more in detail over the course of time. But for today, we're just really talking about unlocking home ownership, and what that actually looks like. So we're gonna go ahead, jump right in. Now, I'm a checklist. I'm a checklist girl. So I like to have checklists, and I also like to have notes. So I am looking down in my notes to make sure that I don't leave anything off from what we're talking about today. So what I'm going to do is I want to break this down in 6 steps. 6 steps to purchasing a home. During my home buyer orientation, which is what I normally take my clients through after being pre-approved, I add on a few steps. That way I can make sure that I don't skip anything. But for the overall purpose, we're going to focus on the 6 steps to unlocking home ownership and what that looks like from beginning to end. So, step number one. Step number one is getting financially prepared. That can mean a lot of different things depending on your situation. I also like to throw in that the home ownership journey to buying a house, and it's pretty much like anything. It's always going to be different for everybody. It's just like going to the doctor's office. When you go to the doctor's office, you're not going to get the same results as the next person, and it's all going to be different. So each experience is different. It's even, if you're a repeat buyer, let's just say you're not a first time home buyer, you're buying a property for the second time. It's still not going to be the same the same process as the first time. So every experience is different. So when it comes down to getting ready and getting prepared financially, that looks different for everyone. So a few things that you can do as far as getting prepared financially. The first thing is your credit score. What is your credit looking like? I get the question, what is the minimum credit score I have to have? Or the common thing is, um, what is the one? I'm preparing, I'm getting ready, I'm gonna let you know. Well, how are you going to know if you don't take a look at it? You'll be surprised at how many people don't even know their credit score. And I find that the most of the time when people don't know their credit score, it's because they know they need some work done and they just don't want to face the fact that it's mess there. Because it is mess. It can get a little messy, but it's mess there. But it's okay, you gotta start somewhere. So the minimum credit score to purchase a home, 580. I would always suggest you to go in at a 620 or above. That will be considered a stronger buyer, 620 or above. And let me tell you why. The reason why you want to go in at 620 or above is because you want to be able to make sure you can qualify for whatever assistance possible if that's what you're looking to do, if that's your overall goal, you want to make sure that you are credit worthy. We know that right now interest rates are a topic, and we'll talk about interest rates specifically later on in the series. And actually, I'm not even going to be the one talking about interest rates. I'm going to have a mortgage lender talking about interest rates. But interest rates it is a factor, but your credit score does kind of determine where you fall at as far as your interest rate on your mortgage. So, also with the down payment assistance programs that are available, not all of them, but most of them do have some type of criteria, and credit scores being one of them. So you do want to know what your credit score is. It doesn't matter where you fall on the spectrum of where your credit is. That is the very first step, because it's always like, what do you look like on paper? I have people that they're a little old school and they don't really have credit. They don't want credit cards. They pay everything in cash. I get it, and it's cool. But when you are borrowing other people's money by way of the bank, you have to show a paper trail. You have to show something on paper. So it's not what you look like as far as like spending money. It's what does your um, financial report card looks like. Like, what does that look like? We got to look at your financial report card to see if we're going to lend you X amount of dollars. So we got to talk about specific. things around credit later on, but you do definitely want to know what your credit score is, and a safe place to be as far as minimum credit score when applying will be around 620. Now, that's a safe place. Don't get me wrong, you can definitely purchase a property with a lower credit score, but keep in mind, if you're going to prepare and get ready, why are we going to prepare at the bottom? We're going to prepare to go up. So aim for a 620 is will be my rule of thumb around there. The next thing will be your down payments. Yes, there are down payment assistance programs available. Yes, that there are. They're very much available. However, you still want to make sure that you are prepared because things come up, things happen. Again, when it comes to some of the down payment assistance programs, they have criteria. So let me give you an example. Let's just say that you do have money saved up, um, and but in your mind, you want to use down payment assistance. You want to use down payment assistance, but your debt to income ratio is the ratios are too high. And if you don't know what debt to income ratio is, it's exactly what it sounds like. How much money you got coming in versus how much money you got going out. So if you have a lot of expenses and maybe your income, the gap between the expenses and what you're bringing in is a little thin, then that means that you might not qualify for down payment assistance. And if that does come up and if that happens, you have to be prepared to make sure that you're able to pay whatever fees are associated with your down payment and things like that. The second thing that you prepare for, aside from the down payment, which can be anywhere between FHA loans 3.5%, conventional can be low as 5%. It just depends. Everybody's different, so we always have to make sure that we check that with a mortgage lender first. But going back to down payment, if you're taking notes, like the pastor say, I want you to make sure that you understand that the down payment assistance, the closing costs, all of these things, these assistance, it happens at the end, the very end. So you still have some things that you have to come out of pocket with on the front end, which we'll get into that as well in a second. But you have to make sure you prepare all the way around the board. What you don't want to do, and this is what stresses a lot of people out around purchasing a home, is not understanding how the finances work. Where does fees come from? Where does this fee come from? Well, I'm here to tell you the down payment assistance, any type of closing expenses, those that happens at the very end of the table. There's 30 to 45 days after we actually go on the contract. There's some things that happen before then, and I'll list those things in just a second. So, just to wrap up the getting financially ready, making sure you know your credit score, making sure that you actually are working towards saving towards your down payment and your closing costs. And the last thing is creating a budget. Nobody wants to be house poor. And what that means is just because you get a pre-approval letter for 500,000 doesn't mean that you have the capacity to want to pay that mortgage of 500,000. Because you might want to go to the nail shop, you might want to go bowling, you might want to go anything. And if you're putting all your money into the house, that's not the dream. That's the challenge. And we don't want to be challenged going in. So that goes back to preparing. So again, check your credit score. The goal is to be above a 620. You have down payment and closing costs to make sure that you save up for, regardless of any assistance programs that may be out there. You're going to make sure that you have that work towards saving that up and then creating a realistic budget. So those are the three things that I have as far as getting financially ready. The second part is the pre-approval process, which honestly, in my opinion, which I don't give my opinion a lot because it's really not about what I think, but it is what I know. In this case, I do, and regardless of whatever rules and regulations that they got put in place for us as far as making sure we do this, that, and the other, getting pre-approved is the very first and important step because that goes back to step number one. You are making sure you know your budget. You're making sure you know what you can and cannot afford. You are also making sure you know what to expect by way of what is your down payment, what could your closing costs be, what's all included in these closing costs. You know, so it's like a roadmap. I tell people all the time, like when you are planning to go to, let's say we're going to LA, we were about to travel to LA. We know what the goal is. The goal is to get to LA. But are we driving? Are we walking? Are we flying? Are we staying in an Airbnb, a hotel? Are we room sharing? Like, there's still a plan that has to be put in place. You can't just strike out and get to LA. Same thing with buying a house and getting pre-approved. Their pre-approval process helps us so much with the budgeting. And an example, let's just say that you want these granite countertops. Do you want the island in the kitchen? You want the open floor plan? You want 300,000 square feet? Like, you want the mother-in-law house? You want all of that? Okay, that's all good. I'm glad we are going to make sure that we can accommodate whatever we can as far as finding you that house, but is it within your budget? So that goes back to making sure you know what you can and possibly cannot afford during that pre-approval process, and that happens with a mortgage lender. Mortgage lenders, especially the ones that I work with some amazing lenders, and they don't care if you buying a house today or in 5 years. The goal is to make sure that you understand where your finances are as it pertains to a mortgage loan. So you will, and I'll tell you the steps for the pre-approval process. Most of the time, you fill out an application. The application is to get your information and to pull your credit. They reach out after you fill out the application and they ask for your income documents. Most most of the time the documents are the same, but again, it just depends on the situation. Those documents could include your pay stubs for the last 30 days, your W-2s. If you're self-employed, it'll be your 1099s, any tax returns, bank statements, things like that. All of those things are items that the lender is going to want to see. If you have any additional income, especially one of the things that, like fixed income, it could be something that's like disability, it could be alimony, it could be something, anything that is consistent and can be tracked by way of employment or extra funds that are coming in on a consistent basis, then you can use those to help you get pre-approved. Um, and they look at those documents. Once they look at those documents, they look at your credit report because they're also comparing those numbers. Now that the lenders do what the lenders do, I'm a realtor, so they work their numbers and front end and back end ratios and all of that good stuff. Don't worry about boggling your mind with it because I don't. Because as a realtor, I stay in my lane, and if there's a lending question or something that comes up, we're gonna direct it to the source and ask the lender what needs to go on or what the situation is. So the lender is going to be your outside of me, your realtor. It's going to be your best friend because that is who we are going to get most of the answers from as it pertains to your pre-approval. Um, also with getting pre-approved, let's talk about pre-approved versus pre-qualified really quick because I have seen a lot of people come through with pre-approvals from some of these online companies, and no shade to the online companies at all. There's no shade to them at all. However, one of the things that they do is they look at your credit and they look at what you put on the application, and they won't do any verification or any verifying rather, and they'll just give you a pre-approval letter based on that. And then you take this $1 million pre-approval letter to put an offer on this house, and then when it goes through the process of underwriting, which is where they get in your business, then they start verifying things and see that you don't even really have any of these things. So no, that's a pre-qualification. A pre-approval is when you submit your documents. They verify that you are working the job that you say you work. They're verifying that you do bank and have an open bank account with these said statements. They make sure that your pay is what it is. They're checking your credit. They're checking everything. That's pre-approved. That is what you can stand on. You can't stand on a pre-qualification because again, it's only off of what you put on the application and what your credit score is at that time. So being pre-approved, the second step is extremely, extremely important. So let's say once you get your pre-approval letter, that's when we actually sit down and have a conversation about where we're going, what are your needs, what neighborhoods are we looking in. That gives us the roadmap. The roadmap. So a little example, let's say you want on the pre-qualification, you put $1 million. Well, as your agent, with a pre-qualification of $1 million, I'm going to suggest that you go speak with the lender that's going to fully pre-approve you. Because if we go and put this offer in on this $1 million house, and we find out that you quit your job 2 weeks ago and you didn't even make $1 million, then they kind of just make both of us look a little, a little side eye. Like what's really going on? So pre-approved. If you don't have a mortgage lender that you have a relationship with, I would happily connect you with my lenders. They're not even my lenders; they're our lenders. They're yours, they're mine, they're the world's. But I will definitely connect you with them, and it doesn't make me any difference. Really, and I would love to work with you, but it doesn't make me any difference whether you work with me or not, because my overall goal is to make sure you understand what you're doing. That's it. So get pre-approved. Now, going back to what I was saying, now once you actually get pre-approved, I take my clients through a what I call a home buyer orientation. And that orientation is exactly what it sounds like. When you start a new job, you do what? You go to orientation to find out what you are actually supposed to be doing and how. That's what I do with my clients. So before we even step foot out in the world to go and see a door, we're going to talk about what this real estate market is doing, what you should expect in this real estate market, so forth and so on. And that's when we go through those steps that I told you about. Like I take them through like 10 steps. This is like six, but I take my clients through about 10 steps, and we address things like out of pocket expenses as a buyer. So since we're talking about that, that's not on my list to talk about, but I do want to make notes of this. We talked about down payment assistance and closing costs. That's one of the things that's important to you as you're going through the process, and as you are after you get pre-approved before you go into seeing these properties. However, there are four out of pocket expenses that you have as a buyer that I don't really hear people talking about. And those four things is your earnest money. Earnest money is your good faith money that you're putting up with the offer that you're placing on a property. Once your offer is accepted, then you go into inspections. Inspections are an out-of-pocket expense. The two most common inspections. Now, this is not the only inspection you can have, but the two most common inspections are your home inspection and your pest inspection. The home inspection is similar to, you know what? Maybe I should have been in the medical field at some point, because everything I always go back to the doctor. It goes back to the doctor's office. But a home inspection, I would say, is very similar to going to the doctor for a wellness check. It's a wellness check. You going in to find out your cholesterol, your blood pressure, your anything that's going on. They're going to check on your wellness check. Same thing with a home inspection. They're going to go in and they're going to check almost everything. The only thing they can't do is move furniture around, and they can't do all that. But they're going to check the outlets. They're going to walk the roof. They are going to look at plumbing, electrical work, structural issues, cosmetic things. They are going to let you know everything that's going on with it. That's what a home inspection is, and that's what a wellness check is. Now we'll go into detail about what that is along the way. But home inspection, the second one is your pest inspection. You have to make sure that you have no wood destroying insects in the house. Most common, termites. Termites eat up wood. They also leave damage, and no one wants to purchase a property that is being eaten up by wood. I mean, that's eaten up where the wood is getting eaten up by termites. Have I had this happen? Several times. It's one of those things where you can't, sometimes you can avoid it, and sometimes you can't. But rest assured that if a property does have termites, there's always a remedy for it. So don't worry about that at all. You just know that there are two common inspections that are done on the property, and then the fourth thing is your appraisal, and that's something that's directly through the lender. So those are your four out-of-pocket expenses, and that is your earnest money, your home inspection, your pest inspection, and your appraisal. We'll talk in detail at a later time about what those things are, but just know it's more than just your down payment and your closing costs. Okay. So um those those all happen after you find the perfect house. And we go through finding the perfect house and what that looks like after you get pre-approved. But the most important thing about all of it is that you have some out of pocket expenses to be prepared for, so you don't feel like you got to rob Peter to pay Paul, and then you get overwhelmed because it's just not working out. We're not even gonna do that. We're gonna make sure that it's there and that you're comfortable with it, and then we can move forward on everything else. So once we do find that house, whether it be new construction, whether it be an existing home, then we actually place an offer, go under contract. We go through those two inspections that I mentioned. Once we can clear all of those conditions, and when I say clear conditions, I mean we have done our due diligence by doing our earnest money. We have gotten our inspections done. If there are any repairs that need to be done, we know we negotiate that. Everything is negotiable. So I don't. If anybody is telling you this is how it's normally done, or this is what it is, or no, everything is negotiable. That is in the offers and the contracts, and that is one of the great things about working with me as your realtor. And who you work with matters. Yes, you're gonna understand the process and what's going on from beginning to end. So once we've cleared all those conditions, by like I said, inspections, appraisal, underwriting, they've checked and verified everything. Then it's time for closing. Once we close, now closing day, we not you. I'm gonna say this. Let me take it back. Sometimes you don't get your keys on the day that you close. So let me save you something real quick. Let me save you some trouble. When it's closing day, that is the day that we are about to turn up. Okay, that's the day that we are signing. I'm talking about like doing the write offs that y'all used to do. I would not talk. I would not talk. I would not talk. Sometimes it's a lot of paper, so you might want to get your wrist together so that you can go ahead and get your signing wrist on, your signing hand on. Once we sign those papers, there's a process that has to take place immediately after, and that's called a swap. So that means that the sellers have to also sign documents, you're signing documents, that everybody has to get these documents before they fund. That means drop the money in the account. When they drop the money in the account, that's when you can get your keys. So we celebrating, but don't pull up to a celebration in your moving truck, because you might be leaving off with the moving truck and probably go eat lunch or something. And depending on the time of the day, you might wake up, get in that moving truck to drive to get your keys. So closing is signing, funded, you get your keys. And we make sure that we communicate. When I say we, I tell everybody, I'm like an octopus. I'm like an octopus. I'm not a tree, because tree limbs they snap and they break. The octopus, you see those videos, they are super long and they super strong and they just like. So I would definitely consider myself an octopus in this sense, because every which way there is something that has to be communicated and somebody that has to talk to. I have to talk to a lot of it's a lot of moving parts with this. So I'm keeping up with, not only me, my team is keeping up with a lot of things that's going on around. So from the lender, the title company, the home inspector, the termite, the other agent. Like, so it's a lot of things that move on, and the move it's a lot of moving parts through this process. So going back to what I always say, who you work with matters. So now, once you get your keys, you in there. You are in there. Now let me make this note too. On closing day, it could be before closing or it could be the same day. They will run your credit again. They will make sure that you ain't quit your job. So this is why it is important to not make any changes to your credit. Don't quit your job. If you want to quit your job, please wait till you get your keys. Just and I've had a client do that. She stayed at that job. She couldn't stay in that job. And the day after closing, she got her keys because we closed late. So she ended up getting her keys the next day. She got her keys. And then when I called her the next day to follow up, I called her at a time where I knew she was at work. And I was like, well, I know you're at work. And she was like, I quit. So if you're in a situation where you've gotten pre-approved on the job that you absolutely do not like, you better use that job until you get your goal accomplished. Do not quit that job in the middle of the transaction. Now, I'm not saying you can't change jobs. It's not advised to make any changes, but life happens, and you might have to go from one place to the next, but just let it overlap. Don't let any gaps happen in between there, because that's when you run into issues. And once we got issues, then it that takes a lot of strategy to to kind of get it together. We have done several strategizing sessions in my 6 years of being a realtor. I will say that we've done a lot of strategizing, but if we ain't got to strategize in that way and we can kind of prepare beforehand, then that saves everybody. That just save us some time. So don't quit your job. Don't go and cash out on your 86-inch, 100-inch TV. Don't go buy a new car. You don't do any of that. Don't do any of that. I had a client that had a he has an infatuation with, I didn't even call it an infatuation because that's the wrong word. He had an obsession. I guess it's the same thing. He had an obsession with buying Jordans. When I tell you, now I've seen a lot of shoes. Like I've seen a lot of shoes. But when I say this man had an addiction to buying Jordans, to the point where we were like, you just don't buy Jordans. Just don't buy Jordans. Now he managed to just he could not buy them because that was almost like a habit for him. So he ended up going from like 6 pair of shoes a week to one. I don't even know if they make shoes that much like in production. I don't know. But hey, we had to manage that. We had to get that together. So there was his sacrificial period of getting his goal accomplished. That was what he had to cut back on. Sometimes we got to cut back on some things in order to get our goal accomplished, and we got to sacrifice some things. And sometimes it may be some time. It may be time, and it may be discipline. So yes, don't quit the job. Don't do anything extra after you've gotten pre-approved. But yeah, so yeah, once you get your keys, you in there. You in there. I'll follow up with you, make sure everything is good. And it won't be just about the transaction. It's about making sure that you're good, because once you sign it and it's your house, there are things that home ownership is a journey. It doesn't just stop there. It doesn't stop it when you yes just so no, it don't stop there. Your AC might go out. You might need a roofer. Your contractor might then ran off and you need a new contractor. Just anything. So it doesn't stop there. And then it's seasonal things. Things happen throughout the season. So overall, with unlocking home ownership, there are steps you have to take to get there, and there are also things that you have to do to maintain your investment. So that's pretty much it as far as unlocking home ownership. I think that's all. I don't want to overwhelm you with a whole lot of information, because it can be a lot of information, but you can only what's the saying? How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You just take it one step at a time. It doesn't help you, or it doesn't help me to have you in a space of being overwhelmed. The goal is to make this as seamless as possible. I'm not gonna tell you that. Oh yeah, it's so easy. It's so simple. We're gonna. Mm-mm. I'm not gonna tell you that. I am gonna say that my role in this entire thing is to just. Oh, another example. Y'all know I like examples. This is like so. When I was little, we used to take road trips to everywhere. We used to drive. We didn't have these. We didn't have phones. So you know what we had? We had those MapQuest directions that was printed out, or we went to the Welcome Center and we printed out that big old map, and it just have all the highways and all the little things. But you have to use both. You have to use the map and you have to use the MapQuest directions. So when I was little, I always wanted to sit in the front seat. When I say little, I'm gonna say like 10, 11. I always wanted to sit in the front seat. I never wanted to sit in the back. But the downside about sitting in the front seat was you couldn't go to sleep. Everybody else in the back could be asleep, but you couldn't go to sleep. And do you know why you couldn't go to sleep? I do, because we didn't have GPSs and phones and things like that. I was the guide. I was the map person. I'm the exit 12. Take exit 12. The merge left. The turn. You got this many miles until you reach here. This mile marker here. We're coming up a hill. Like that was what I did as a kid, and it's the same thing I do as a real estate professional or as a business professional in general. I just help guide you along the way. This is definitely your experience. This is your journey. I'm just telling you left, right, or what Apple say, save 5 minutes by taking this route. Okay, like this, I'm just Siri.
Uh-huh.
Siri, I'm about talking to you. See, she's it's too much. But anyways, but yes, so just to give a quick recap before I jump off, because I don't think I got any questions or anything. And if you do have questions, concerns, just anything at all, insight, whatever the case may be, I am always here as a resource. Um, yes, so let's do a quick recap. So the very first step was actually getting financially ready. We talked about making sure that you know your credit score. The goal is to be at a 620 or above, making sure that you have plans to save up for your down payment and closing costs. Of course, we can still plan for down payment assistance, but it's always good to be prepared by way of making sure that you have funds saved up already and creating a realistic budget. Once you do have those things together, the step two is getting pre-approved, speaking with a mortgage lender, submitting your documents, and having the conversation around the pre-approval itself, finding the actual home and what their process looks like. That kind of go hand in hand with the pre-approval process because most of the time you already know what you want when you come. So finding a home. Once we make an offer and go under contract, we go through inspections, appraisals, underwriting, things as such. And then once all of those conditions have been cleared, we jump straight into closing. And again, closing is signing your name on the dotted line, not necessarily getting your keys the same day. It has to close and fund. And once it fund, it's yours. It is yours. So if this is something that y'all, well, you know what, I was gonna say if this is something that y'all want to continue hearing, but y'all gonna hear it anyways because I'm always gonna get on here. I so today it's gonna be on Thursday. I'm actually in the office. I actually overcommitted myself. I'm in a class that I completely forgot about, so I stepped out of the class because I did say that I was going live at 12, and that's what I had to do. So I did step out. So if you have certain topics, I guess, or questions or anything that you would like me to go over, feel free to DM me, text me, let me know. That way I can address those things. I will be doing this weekly, and some weeks I will have a guest on here because although I'm super, super smart, doesn't mean I know everything. So instead of me trying to know everything and be everything and all of this, I'm going to invite some of my resources on here. That way, you all can have one, a better understanding and more insight around whatever the topic is, and two, you will have a resource to be able to reach out to and connect with that has nothing to do with me. So that's your tool in your toolbox for you to help, for you to get help with accomplishing whatever goal you want to accomplish. Okay. Now, if you aren't already following me on Instagram, please follow me, Jess Sold It, Jess, Jess dot SOLD dot IT. Um, and also, I'm going to drop a link. That way, if you would like to get, it's actually in my bio, it's in comments, it's everywhere. But if you want a free home buyer guide that you want to just read, it's cute. So it's cute and very informative. So I want you to read it. But if you would like that as a resource, feel free to use that link and you'll get an instant download. That way you can start planning. Just start planning. Also, if you want to schedule an appointment with me, those links are everywhere as well. And we can just have a conversation around what your goals are and figuring out how we can together make that a reality. It's all about planning. We can't get lost in the planning. No, we have to plan and then execute. So let's do that together. So yeah, y'all follow me. If you all would like to give me a call, my number is literally everywhere. It's 901-563-7755. I do currently reside in Dallas, Texas. I do service all of Dallas Fort Worth, and I'm also still licensed in Tennessee, and I definitely take care of all of my people there as well. Um, I got a couple of stories coming up here that I'm going to be dropping about some success stories about people that have just purchased home. I think I've helped 3 people in the past 30 days purchase homes in Tennessee. So I'm looking forward to that. So yeah, if y'all got any questions, concerns, or anything, y'all just let me know. I'll see you guys back next week. I need to see if I'm going to change the date because I may be changing this from Thursdays. Because I did just take on a commitment and I think that it's going to be on Thursdays and I don't want to break that commitment to what I've just committed to. And I also don't want to break my commitment to making sure that I give y'all some information and insights. So I will be posting about whether I change the day and if I do change the day on what day it is. So, yep. Well, I smell the lunch that they have provided us, so I am getting ready to head upstairs and get my lunch so I can jump back in the class because I think it's over. It's over at some point during the day. I'm just here doing what I'm supposed to do. But yep. Alrighty, guys. Well, you all enjoy the rest of your lunch. I'm so glad I didn't take up all of your lunchtime. But yeah, I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.